Hello, it's Alpha here, and we are back with some more AFK journey videos. So, today we're gonna be talking about the new hero Bonnie. She got just released, and I have done some testing, and she has some quite interesting interactions. So, I'm gonna try to explain those. But first, let's quickly talk about her skills. I'm not going to be spending too much time on it, and I think it's quite easy to understand what her skills does. Her most important skill is the first normal skill, and when the battle starts, Bonnie will debuff the rearmost enemy. And way that this debuff works is that the debuff reduces the enemy's haste until the battle ends, and Bonnie will start attacking the same target that she debuffs. Then what you have to do is that whenever an allied hero attacks this debuffed target with magic damage, this is important, it has to be magic damage, the debuff will grow stronger. So every time an allied hero attacks it, the debuff will reduce an extra 10 haste. And this can happen twice, so the maximum stack for this debuff is 2 times. So you need two different allied heroes to attack the debuff target, and then it will be maximum stacked. And once it reaches maximum stacks, it will also reduce the attack of that hero by 30%, which is a big reduction to the attack. And the enemy will start taking damage every second. So Bonnie will deal damage to the enemy every second when the debuff is maximum stacked. So it's very important that you will get the debuff to the maximum stacks, because then the enemy will get the damage reduction and they will start taking damage every second. So her second skill is not that important, it's just sometimes she will kind of go into invincible mode for a couple seconds, and she does it randomly, so it's not like she will use it at important time. So it's not really that important skill, but I guess sometimes it can save her. So the important skill that you have to basically unlock for her to be usable is her Mythic Plus ability. So once you have the Mythic Plus ability unlocked, when the enemy dies, the debuffed enemy dies, or the debuff reaches the max 2 stacks, then it will spread to the nearest enemy. So that's the only way that you can start spreading the debuff. So if you don't have this unlocked, it's only going to be affecting one enemy, and it loses a lot of damage and potential. And then if you upgrade the weapon to 10, which you should do if you plan to use her, instead of one target, it will spread to 2 nearest targets when the debuffed enemy reaches max stacks, or when the debuffed enemy dies. So the Mythic Plus ability is very important. Then if you have the Supreme Plus unlocked, it's also a good ability. When the enemies have like max debuff stacks, then they will take 10% extra magic damage. So once again, we have synergy with magic damage. And the enemy will also take 20% extra damage from magic damage ultimates. So all of your team's ultimates will be more effective. Her ultimate is also nice. It just basically hits every enemy on the battlefield, and then if the enemy has the debuff from her, then they will also be stunned for 3 seconds and they will take extra damage. So that's why also it's important that you will try to spread the debuff to all of the enemies, because then once she ultimates, they will take extra damage and they will be stunned. Okay, so now that we understand that basically her whole kit revolves around spreading the debuff, then let's talk about the debuff a bit more in detail. So obviously what you want to do is to spread the debuff as fast as possible. So to do that, you need 2 other magic sources to hit the target that has been debuffed, or you need the target to die, and then the debuff will also spread, but the dying is not as important because you really want to max stack the debuff, and for the max stacks you still need 2 heroes to hit it. Now, one thing that's quite interesting is that the skill description clearly says that you need heroes to hit the enemy for the enemy to gain the stack of debuff. But from my testing, it seems that confining spell also counts. So confining spell does deal magic damage, but it's not really a hero that does it. But it seems that the confining spell works. So with Bonnie, you really want to use confining spell, in my opinion, unless it gets fixed or changed. But at least for now, confining spell seems to be quite reliable way to spread the curse. So yeah, that's one thing. Another thing is that if the opponent has enlightening spell, it seems that the haste debuff from the curse doesn't work. Maybe haste. I mean, enlightening spell gives you protection from crowd control effects, so maybe the game considers haste debuff a crowd control effect. I mean, I don't think it is, but that seems to be the case. At least the debuff doesn't show like below the hero if they have the enlightening spell and they get hit with the Bonnie aging spell. It doesn't show the haste debuff. So if you don't know what haste even does, haste is basically, so if you have a haste debuff, it will reduce your attack speed and skill cooldown. So Bonnie, it says that Bonnie will start by targeting the rearmost hero, but if the rearmost hero is something like Skalita, Damien or Lilimay, then she will not target them, she will target another hero instead. And one thing to note is that it's possible for Bonnie to die before she can cast her debuff. So the debuff is just a skill like any other skill, and it has like animation time, and it will take her about 2 seconds before the battle starts for her to cast it. So if she gets hit by enemy Aaron's crowd control and then gets hit by Aaron plus almost crowd control, she will be stunned before she can cast the edging spell, and then if she dies during that stun, then she won't cast it at all. So also because it is a skill and it takes like about 2 seconds for her to cast it, at least sometimes if you try to use Aaron in combination with Bonnie, so with the idea that Aaron will start the battle with his ultimate, and the ultimate will hit all of the enemies and it's magic damage. So if you are trying to like trigger the debuff, the Bonnie's debuff with your Aaron, it doesn't always work because Aaron will cast his ultimate first and then Bonnie will cast the debuff after that. So I don't know, sometimes I guess the Aaron's ultimate will hit before the debuff lands, so then it doesn't count as one magic source hitting the debuffed target. But obviously then the Aaron's second ultimate will hit the targets, and Aaron also has like other attacks that might hit the target. But yeah, just something to consider. I'm not sure, maybe sometimes it does hit, maybe sometimes it doesn't, depending on the position of enemies and your heroes, but yeah. So then there are like stuff like revive effects from Tailene. Based on what I was able to test, so when Tailene goes into like her revive mode, she will kind of lose the debuff from Bonnie. Now I'm not actually sure if she like fully loses it, but it seems that she at least loses the fully stacked version of the curse, so that once she comes out of the revive effect, she doesn't seem to have the attack debuff and the haste debuff anymore. But then I don't know how it exactly works, but it seems that when she comes out of the revive, she often gets hit by the curse again, but then it's not like fully stacked version of the curse. So I don't know how it actually works, but it seems like she kind of loses the debuffs when she goes into revive. And also she will like trigger the spread of the debuff when she goes into the healing effect. So I guess it counts as her dying, because if you remember, the debuff will spread to the enemies if Tailin dies, or if the debuff target dies. And then, but with, for example, with the Tassies, like the kind of Tassie has also this revive effect. It does not reset the curse, and it doesn't also spread the curse to the other targets when she goes into revive mode. Yeah. So then I also tested something like Haven has a Haven skills read that she's able to like dispel like debuffs from allies when she ultimates, or I don't remember if it's ultimate, but anyway, with one of her skills she's able to like dispel debuffs from allies, but it doesn't remove this curse or the effect, I guess, because it's like a permanent effect, so it's not a debuff that you can remove. So that's something to know. Also, one thing that's a little bit confusing about the spell is that it says that it will target the rearmost target, but it will actually always, if there are two heroes that are like equal distance, it will target the leftmost hero, which is not usually considered the rearmost hero. So like, I don't know. Here is an example. So in this case, the enemy Bonnie will actually target this Aaron with the curse instead of Arden, which is normally considered the rearmost hero. And that's quite weird, but I don't know what causes it. And also, if you look at the battlefield, these kind of swords will appear on top of the enemies when they get hit by the curse effect or something like that. So that's one way you can try to like see who gets hit by the curse. So yeah, here are some examples of her damage on PvP. Obviously, she has potential to do a lot of damage if the conditions are correct for her. So here she did more damage than my Lilymay, and note that she's only a Supreme on this one, and plus 10 weapon instead of Lilymay has plus 25 weapon and she's Supreme plus, so more damage than Lilymay. Here also like clearly the most amount of damage. Same thing here, double the damage of Lilymay, even though she's Supreme. And then here she did about the same amount of damage as Alsa. So she definitely has potential to do a lot of damage. Also, here is an example of where the enemy Bonnie didn't get to do anything. So she didn't even cast her debuff because she died before doing that. She died to the almost an Aaron combination. So that's something that can happen. Because you want magic damage heroes, these are, I guess, the most potential options for you to use. And it's mostly gonna be a Wilder team or Graveborn team combined with like Hypergene Celestials. I don't think you're gonna be using Maulers or Lightbearers with her. I mean, I guess you could use Alsa, but then the issue is with Alsa that you will struggle with the faction bonus. Alsa will usually want to have Aaron in the team, and then you already have 3 factions if you're using Aaron, Alsa, and Bonnie. And then you basically have to use either 2 Graveborns or 2 Wilders, or I mean, I guess you can use Celestial Hypergenes as well. But yeah, it's possible to do some team around it. So one thing that of course comes into mind when talking about magic damage dealers is some kind of burst team. So Aaron and Ulmos, and then you have like the typical burst team would be something like this. And this is pretty good team, and it's able to win against some really strong teams if they don't have Enlightening Spell, or if they don't have, well, some heroes that can survive the burst. But yeah, this is a good team. So I guess one option would be to kind of try to run this team, but instead of one of these heroes, you would then use Bonnie, which like seems fine, I guess. So I would definitely try something like this, but these teams will struggle against some teams. I have some examples. The kind of like the biggest counterplays for this kind of burst team are these heroes, and that's kind of unfortunate because these heroes are very meta. So if the enemy has Enlightening Spell and like Haven, for example, then the burst is not necessarily enough damage to kill Haven, because she won't be affected by the Aeron and almost crowd control. So she will be able to heal throughout the whole time that you're trying to burst the team, and then it's possible that the damage is not enough because she's able to heal. Kind of same thing with Ludovic. So Ludovic won't be hit even without the Enlightening Spell. You can't hit Ludovic with Aeron Ulmus comp because for some reason he is immune at the start of the battle for crowd control effects. Well, it's because he casts his like the ultimate ability kind of at the start, and while he's doing that, he's not affected by crowd control effects. So he's one potential kind of like counterplay for these burst teams. And then, yeah, like we have mentioned earlier, Lily May will not be hit by this because she will be not targetable when the battle starts. Same thing with Damien. Now, usually these kind of teams are able to kill Lily May after she uses her like ultimate and becomes untargetable. But then when she comes back, these teams are usually able to kill her anyway. But then if you like combine all of these heroes, then it might be difficult to kill all of them. And then something like Tassi might be the only one who survives after the burst, but then she will destroy your whole team because you don't have any like supports here, and all of these targets are very squishy, and then she will solo the team. So I have one example here of that happening. So this fight was going well in a sense that we were able to kill everyone else except Tassi, and then Tassi just kills us. And then kind of same story happened here. I tried to like burst the enemy team. Now they don't even have Enlightening Spell on Haven, and we were able to kill like most of the enemies. But then when Scarletta comes down, she just kind of one-shots the whole team. So we can take a look at these replays. like I wrote here, everyone dies or everyone else dies, but then Tassi cleans up. Now, it is possible that if I used someone like Carolina instead of Arden, or I used Brian instead of Niru, it's possible that the outcome would have been different, so that's something that I have to test, but like that's how the fight went. And also, of course, one thing is that all of these heroes on the enemy team are Paragon 2, and we have some like just Supreme Plus heroes and Paragon 1 heroes, so obviously they do have like 1 to 2 Paragon levels on us, but still I can see this definitely happening, like similar situation. Now here is an example where we were able to kill the enemies before, like even though they have Tassi, so Tassi just died, but the difference here is that this battle was done in the friendly duel mode, so it might affect some things. Now, as you can see, we don't have any faction bonus active, so if you don't know, in the friendly duel mode there is the faction talents are active if you have them active, but we don't have them. And yeah, so I don't think this would be much different in normal arena, but we were able to win this same team with just a little bit different heroes. So another version of this Bonnie team could be something a lot more tankier. Then you have something like Presto combined with some actual like healers like Damien or Havin or something, and Lily May or Viperian or someone else to trigger the curse, and you have Niru to trigger the curse as well. And I did try some fights with this kind of team, but they kind of run into same situation where you are doing like trying to do like a sustain damage, but then you will die to something like enemy Scarletta coming down. Like for example with this one, we were able to kill 2 of the enemies, so I think we killed like Lily May and we killed the Bonnie, but enemy Bonnie, but then and we have everyone else was still alive, but then the Scarletta comes down and just one-shots everyone basically. So this team kind of has the same issue that you're trying to do sustain damage, but then there are some heroes that can like out damage you by a lot, like Scarletta. Now I was able to win this against this team with just a little bit different use of artifact, so I used confining spell instead, and then that made the difference. Now in this fight the enemy Scarletta did come down and she did ultimate as well, but the ultimate wasn't able to kill all of our heroes because I think we killed one more enemy hero before she was able to come down, so she lost some power. And this was the damage done. Obviously, our Bonnie did most damage because she was kind of like the only damage source in this team. And yeah, here was another example that I tried and we were able to win. Now, once again, this did look a bit sketchy, but because the Scarlet did come down, but she wasn't able to kill our whole team. I guess some kind of sustain team is possible, but I also can see that there are some issues with some of these type of heroes that can then kind of out damage your sustain team. Like Tailing can just, if she gets her ultimate out, it's potential that she just kills everyone. You don't really have a way to stop her with this team. So then obviously one team that you could do is something like this, where you have just these both are magic dealers, and if your Tailin will ultimate, then you will probably win. She will spread the Bonnie's curse, and also enemies will take more damage from ultimates. So like this is probably something that's really good, but I didn't really want to test it because not everyone has Tailin. But I might test it soon as well. And then I was thinking maybe something like this could also work. So the idea is that you try to use Dunlinger to prevent anyone from doing like ultimates, and while no one is doing ultimate, you try to get the curse to spread to all of the enemies. And then someone like Scarletta comes down once everyone is able to ultimate and kind of clears up the enemy team. Now I haven't tested this team at all and I don't know if it's good, but yeah, we can like clearly see that she is capable of doing insane amounts of damage, and she has some potential for sure, but then there are also some things that she struggles against, I guess. But yeah, it's just about can you find a good team that works for her. So I will still do more testing with her. This was just based on 1 day of testing, so not that many fights. I was able to win some, but I did definitely lose some. So yeah, it's not very clear how good she's gonna be in the end.